Which reviewer came the closest to fucking Meidri? As far as we know, none of them have actually done it, although Stunk and Zell have made their intentions known. It's also well known that Meidri staunchly refutes their advances, thus none of them have flipped the bird, so to speak. However, the three main reviewers along with Conchal did build and fuck lifelike golems fashioned after Meidri. The biggest difference between each golem was the personality core, so which personality core came the closest to the truth? To start, what is the truth? What do we know about Meidri? We're not sure if she's actually had sex before, but we do know that she's a bird maid. As can be seen early in the show, the reviewers visit a bird maid brothel, and so we have a general idea of what a bird maid's sexual behavior is. To elaborate, they were described as horn dogs by Zell, and otherwise very sexually active and submissive with a bird-like penchant for noise. However, we should take this with a grain of salt, as these bird maids were in fact prostitutes. Thus, we can't look at them as examples of normality, but they're the best example we have, so we'll keep that grain of salt handy. Lastly, each of the golems were similar enough physically, so that isn't a considerable variable. We'll go chronologically, starting with Stunk. Stunk chose the personality core, quote, horny harlot. This doesn't seem like Meidri from what we see of her, but this is an accurate choice based on the brothel experience. While this doesn't seem like Meidri's outward personality, we can't prove nor disprove whether she acts like this sexually or not. Another note is that the nape of her neck is sensitive. While this is a seemingly inconsequential point, it shows that she has at least some behavioral similarity to the brothel bird maids. Overall, Stunk's personality core doesn't have much support from Meidri specifically, but it does seem to fit the bird maids pretty well, so keep that salt handy. Next is Zell, who chose some kind of Onesan character, I forgot the name. Zell's choice seems to be the most accurate to Meidri's outward personality. That is, we see her act kind and supportive towards Krim while he works at the tavern. Even after the review was published and the brawl later ensued, Meidri remained kind and supportive towards Krim, given enough time to let her rage subside. Overall, Zell's choice of supportive Onesan seems most accurate to Meidri's outward personality, thus it has the most support so far. Keep in mind, I'm trying to keep speculation out of my conclusions. Third is Conchal, who chose a masochistic submissive personality core. There are issues with this. We have no evidence to support any masochistic tendencies for Meidri, and she seems to be quite the opposite of submissive. Oftentimes we see her stand up for herself, violently so. We also have to account for Conchal's notable bias. He's a sadistic dominant, which would influence his choice. That being said, we don't have a lot of evidence to support Conchal. Lastly, but certainly not least, the not-so-late but still pretty great Krim. And the first-time filly, with easily my favorite name ever. Referring back to one of my previous points, we don't know if Meidri has had sex yet. This brings some amount of potential validity to Krim's personality core, but that would be speculation. That's not to say Krim is entirely inaccurate. First-time filly, whatever the fuck that means, does have potential, it just doesn't have evidence. Aside from the possible virginal aspect, we don't have much evidence to support Krim's choice. Once again, we see a submissive Meidri, and once again I'd point out that she's not outwardly submissive. I recognize that she may behave differently in a sexual scenario, but I don't have any proof of that, and as such I can't count it as evidence. Overall, Krim's choice has potential, but not enough evidence. To conclude, I think that Zell was the most accurate. This is in a lack of evidence for Meidri's sexual behavior and a reliance on her outward social behavior. Think and say what you will, but at the end of the metaphorical day, the light's blocking out all the good parts.